385 days. That is how long it would take American dealers to clear one particular new car off their lots at the pace it is currently selling, not a used car, not something obscure with a badge nobody recognizes, a brand new muscle car with one of the most famous names in the business stamped across the back of it. There are 10,796 of them parked outside in the weather as of the 1st of July, and over the previous 45 days, 1,261 people bought one. I have walked a lot of lots. You start to recognize the look. A car that has been sitting outdoors for 8 or 9 months has a particular quality to it, and it is not something you see in the photos on the website. The tire sidewalls go gray and chalky where the black has baked out of the rubber. There is grit in the door seals. The battery has been jumped so many times the salesman does not even react anymore. He just walks out with the pack tucked under his arm like it is a lunchbox, and he does it while he is still talking to you. Once you have seen it, you can pick the old stock out of a row of new cars from 30 feet away in the rain without looking at a sticker. Here's what I want you to sit with for a second. Every one of those days cost somebody money. The dealer borrowed against that car to put it on the lot. Interest accrues on it every single morning, whether anybody walks past it or not. And the entire time that meter is running, you have been told the same thing by every buying guide on the internet, in almost the same words. A full lot means leverage. A slow seller means you name your price. I went and looked at what the discounts actually are. They are not what you have been told they are. The brand sitting on the biggest pile of unsold metal in America right now is discounting less aggressively than the industry average, less, not more. So what we are doing here is going through the 12 models that dealers genuinely cannot move, ranked by the only number that measures it honestly. You will get the real figures, what is wrong with each one, and whether it is actually a bargain or just a car that is cheap for reasons that will follow you home. And at the end, I am going to show you why every one of these gets harder to sell in 2027. And the specific reason has almost nothing to do with the cars themselves. The number that runs through all of this is called market day supply. It is a simple bit of arithmetic, and it is the most honest number in the car business, which is probably why nobody advertises it. Take how many of a given model are physically sitting on dealer lots in America, divide by how many are selling per day, averaged over the last 45 days. What you get is how many days it would take to sell every last one, assuming the factory shut the line down this afternoon and never built another. That is the whole technical apparatus. No jargon needed past this point. It is a bathtub with a tap and a drain. And we are measuring how long the drain takes. The industry as a whole came into July carrying about 80 days of supply, sitting on roughly 2.82 million vehicles. That is a normal, healthy, slightly full lot. Nothing alarming. Now here's the yardstick I want you to hold on to because I'm going to keep coming back to it. Toyota came into the same month at 37 days, not 80, 37. Lexus was at 41, Honda at 48. Those three are shifting cars fast enough that a dealer barely has time to wash one before it is gone. 37 days. Keep that in your head. Every car on this list gets measured against it. Number 12, the Jeep Grand Wagoneer at 215 days. This is the one that hurts to look at because there is a genuinely decent vehicle underneath the problem. Jeep redesigned it for 2026, and the redesign was an admission. They made it simpler, cheaper, and repositioned it against the big American SUVs instead of pretending it was going to take sales off the British and German full-size luxury stuff. That was the right call. It came about 3 years late. The trouble is what came before it. Jeep spent the early part of this decade pushing a $100,000 SUV at people who had been buying $40,000 Jeeps their whole lives. And the resale market did what it always does with that. One study tracked how much leftover 2024 stock was still on dealer lots when the 2026s turned up. Industry-wide, 0.4%, essentially nothing. For the long wheelbase Grand Wagoneer, over 24%. A quarter of a model year still sitting there 2 years later at an average price in the low 90s. If you are the person who is going to sign for one of these this weekend, I am talking to you specifically for a second. Do not let anybody show you a monthly payment before you have seen what the same truck sold for used at 3 years old. That gap is the actual price. Number 11, the Jeep Gladiator at 222 days. The Gladiator is a Wrangler with a bed on the back, and I have always had a soft spot for it because it is one of the last vehicles you can buy where the doors come off with hand tools and the windscreen folds flat. That is not nothing. Somebody at Jeep fought for that. But look at what happened to the volume. It sold something close to 90,000 in 2021, under 79,000 the following year, then 55,000. It has been falling every single year since the launch, and the reason is not mysterious. The base truck starts in the low 40s, the versions people actually want. The Rubicon and the Mojave walk straight past 60. And in that same showroom window, a Toyota, a Chevrolet, or a Ford will sell you a very capable midsize truck for substantially less, and it will ride better on the road, which is where you will spend 95% of your life with it. Against 37 days, the Gladiator is at 222. It is a good machine sold to a shrinking group of people who will pay a premium for the specific thing it does. Number 10, the Buick Envision at 227 days. Slow down with me on this one, because the arithmetic is the clearest example of something I keep running into. It is worth 2 minutes of your patience. The Envision is a perfectly ordinary midsize crossover. Comfortable, quiet, nothing offensive about it. It is also the only vehicle General Motors imports into the United States from China, and it has been coming over that way since 2017. Here is the stack of duties on it as things stand. A standard 2.5%, a Section 301 tariff of 25% on top, in place since 2018, then a further 20% layered on. Added up, a combined rate of 47.5% on a family crossover. Nobody absorbed that out of goodwill. The price went up $2,000 one spring, and the 2026 car landed roughly $5,000 above the model before it. The sales did exactly what you would expect. Fourth quarter of 2025, volume down almost 61% against the same quarter a year earlier. Full year down a bit over 11% to just under 42,000. The company has announced the next one moves to a plant in Kansas in 2028, which is good news for 2028. It does absolutely nothing for the car sitting on the lot in front of you, and it tells every buyer paying attention that the current one is an orphan. Number 9, the Alfa Romeo Stelvio at 229 days. 29 of them found buyers in a month and a half, 36 to be exact. It is a 10-year-old design with a taller roof than the sedan you will meet in a minute, and everything I'm about to say about that car applies here with the seats raised 4 inches. Lovely steering. Genuinely good engine. Interior from another decade. Move on. Number 8. The Jeep Wrangler 2-door at 230 days. This is the one that surprised me most because the 2-door Wrangler is supposed to be recession-proof. It is the shape of the whole brand. Jeep actually cut prices for 2026, which almost nobody does. The 4-door Sport S came down by something like $1,300, and they knocked money off popular options. Credit where it is due. Most manufacturers answer slow sales by adding a trim level nobody asked for. But here is the detail that tells you where the pressure actually is. While the 4-door versions came down, the 2-door Willys went the other way, from a shade over 40,000 to just under 43. They cut the family car and raised the fun one. I have a theory about why, and I will flag clearly that it is a theory and not something anybody has confirmed. 2-door Wranglers are almost pure discretionary purchases. Nobody needs one. When money gets tight, that is the exact vehicle that comes off the shopping list first, which means the people still buying them are the people least sensitive to price. Raise it and they will still come. That is my read of it. I could be wrong. Number 7, the Maserati Grecale at 233 days. 48 sold in 45 days in the whole country. The Grecale is the entry point to Maserati. An entry point here means somewhere around $80,000. That is Porsche money for a crossover that is not a Porsche. And there is no way around that comparison because everyone shopping in the segment makes it in the first 10 minutes. I have to be straight about the brand level numbers because the sources do not agree. One set has Maserati shipping around 7,900 vehicles worldwide in 2025. Another puts it just over 11,000. The gap is almost certainly factory shipments versus actual registrations. And depending which you take, you get either a 30% collapse or something milder. I am using the lower figure because when a company reports two numbers and one is embarrassing, the embarrassing one usually means something. Either way, both Ferrari and Lamborghini outsold Maserati last year. Sit with that for a moment. Two brands whose entire business model is scarcity moved more cars than the mainstream Italian luxury marque. Number 6, the Mercedes-Benz EQS at 243 days. 60 sold in 45 days. The EQS is an extraordinary piece of engineering that arrived at exactly the wrong moment, wearing exactly the wrong shape. Mercedes went all in on the slippery aerodynamic form, got a drag coefficient that is genuinely remarkable, and discovered that people spending 6 figures on a Mercedes want it to look like a Mercedes. What is striking is the scale of the response. The 2026 model year brought serious cuts across the electric range, in the region of $15,000 off the SUV. And on the ultra-luxury Maybach version, dealers have had access to incentive money in the tens of thousands, reportedly $25,000 this spring after an even bigger figure the year before. That is not a discount. That is a controlled demolition of a price position. And here is the specifically 2027 problem, which we will keep hitting. The next EQA gets a fundamental architectural change, moving to a higher voltage electrical system with roughly double the charging speed. Anybody who understands what that means will not touch a 2026 car at any price, because the difference is not a trim level. It is the part of the car you interact with every week for a decade. Still with me? Good. The back half is where it gets interesting because the next 3 are all about somebody else's decision landing on your head. Number 5, the Audi SQ7 at 255 days, 71 sold. A 500 horsepower V8 SUV in a market quietly running out of them, so on paper it should be a collector's item in waiting. The problem is timing, and Audi caused it themselves. The 2026 SQ7 is the outgoing car. The 2027 replacement is a full redesign with 591 horsepower instead of 500 at somewhere around 99,995 with delivery against roughly 94,000 before. So the choice on the lot right now is pay 94 for the old one or wait a few months and pay 6,000 more for 91 extra horsepower and a new interior. Anybody with the money to be in that showroom in the first place can do that sum. One honest note: the reported price increase on the regular Q7 has been quoted anywhere from about $3,300 to nearly $9,000, depending on the article, and both are correct because they are comparing different engines and different trims. If you see a scary number about the Q7 somewhere, check which version it is measuring before you get angry about it. Number 4, the Alfa Romeo Giulia at 270 days, 25. 25 people in the United States bought a new Giulia over a month and a half. I love this car, and I am going to be honest about it anyway. The Giulia is built on a platform that went into production around 2015. It has been lightly updated and never properly replaced. The next generation was supposed to be here already. It was supposed to be electric. And then the company looked at the market, canceled that plan, and pushed the redesign out to something like 2028 so it can be re-engineered for combustion and hybrid power, which means the car you are looking at on the lot has to hold the line for another 2 model years. There's nothing wrong with an old design. Some of the best cars ever built were old designs by the time they went out of production. But an old design at a full new car price, with the whole world knowing the replacement is coming, is a very specific kind of trap. Number 3, the Polestar 4 at 318 days. 93 sold, and this one is not really about the car at all. The United States finalized a rule in early 2025 covering connected vehicles. The logic is national security. Modern cars are full of cellular modems, cameras, sensors, and driver assistance software. And the government decided it did not want that stack controlled by companies with sufficient ties to China or Russia. The software restrictions bite from the 2027 model year hardware around 2030. In June of this year, the Commerce Department declined to give Polestar the authorization it needed. The trigger was ownership, not where the cars get built, which matters enormously because Polestar builds the 3 in South Carolina. American factory, American workers, and it did not save them. So Polestar has said it will stop selling new cars in the United States and concentrate on Europe, where about 94% of its volume already goes. Existing 2026 stock can still be sold. I do not have a settled view on whether the rule is proportionate. I can see the argument on both sides, and I am not the person to adjudicate it. What I can tell you with complete confidence is what it means for a specific human being standing on a specific lot. You would be buying a car from a brand that has just announced it is leaving, and the warranty and parts support question is a real one that nobody has fully answered yet. Number 2, the Volkswagen ID4 at 349 days. 151 sold nationally in 45 days. And this is the sharpest before and after picture in the whole industry. Third quarter of 2025, Volkswagen moved about 12,500 of these. Fourth quarter of 2025, 248. Same car, same factory, same dealers. The only thing that changed is that the federal tax credit ended at the end of September, and everybody who was going to buy an electric car pulled their purchase forward into that window. The demand did not evaporate. It got harvested 3 months early, and what was left behind was a lot full of them. Volkswagen stopped building the ID4 in Tennessee in the middle of April. That plant is switching over to the next Atlas. The company says the 2026 stock should carry it into 2027, and that a future version is planned for North America, with no date attached. Regional footnote worth knowing: in California, the state where this car should be easiest to sell, the supply figure has been reported north of 900 days. That is not a typo. Almost 3 years. Number 1, the Dodge Charger at 385 days. The slowest selling new car in America, and the one I have thought about the most because I do not think it is a bad car, and I still cannot see a way out for it. Here is the arc. The old Charger and Challenger, the ones with the big pushrod V8, were clearing well over 20,000 units in a single quarter as recently as early 2024, and that was after production had already stopped. People were buying the leftovers. The replacement launched electric first and managed a bit over 7,000 in its first full year. Then the gas version arrived with a twin turbocharged straight six, making either 420 or 550 horsepower, genuinely more than most of the V8s it replaced. In the first quarter of this year, the gas car outsold the electric 17-1, 1,672 against 240. 7-1 sounds decisive until you notice that 1,600 is still a rounding error against 20,000. Now the 2027 part, and this is the one I cannot explain and am not going to try to. Dodge raised the price of the electric Charger Daytona by $12,500 for 2027, $12,500. The two-door goes from just under 60 to just under 73 before delivery. The only substantive change anybody has been able to identify is a native charge port that fits the Tesla network without an adapter. Meanwhile, the gas-powered RT holds at $49,995, unchanged. Worth knowing where this car is built, too, because it explains some of the wobble. Assembly is in Windsor, Ontario, which put it on the wrong side of a 25% import tariff the moment those landed. The cheaper electric trim was postponed for the 2026 model year, and the company said in plain language that it was assessing tariff policy. That is the rare occasion where a manufacturer tells you exactly why, and it still did not save the car. I have read the company's statement about adjusting to market dynamics and policy changes several times, and I genuinely cannot tell you what it means. My best guess is that they have decided the electric one is a low-volume niche product now and priced it accordingly, and that the current discounts on 2026 cars are a clearance rather than a strategy. But that is a guess, and I want to be clear that it is one, so there is your 12. Now, here is the part I actually wanted to get to, and it is the reason I looked into any of this in the first place. You have been told by every buying guide and every comparison site, and probably by a friend who is pleased with himself about cars, that a full lot is your leverage. That is the word, leverage. High days of supply equals a motivated dealer equals you name your price. It is presented as a law of physics. Go and check it against the actual figures because somebody already did. Jeep came into July carrying about 160 days of supply across the brand. The industry average was 80, double, the highest of any major brand in the country. Every condition in the leverage theory is satisfied at maximum intensity brand-wide. Jeep's incentive spend in June came to roughly 6.7% of average transaction price. The industry average was 7. Read that again. The brand with twice as much unsold stock as anybody else is discounting less than average. That is the whole trick. And it is not a conspiracy, it is just arithmetic that runs the other way from the one you were shown. Incentives are not set by the man standing in front of you in the polo shirt. They are set upstairs, and upstairs is not optimizing for clearing the lot. Upstairs is protecting the residual value, which protects the lease payment, which protects next year's volume. Discount hard now, and you train every customer you have to wait for the discount, and you crater what your 3-year-old cars are worth, which raises the payment on every new one you write. So they hold. They will hold for a very long time, and they will eat the interest because the interest is smaller than the alternative. You were told the days of supply number was a weapon you could pick up. It is not. It is a weapon they can see you looking at, and they have already decided how much of it you get. Look at what they did with the 2027 pricing while you were being told about leverage. The slowest selling nameplate in America got a $12,500 increase on its electric version. The outgoing V8 Audi that has been sitting for 8 months is being replaced by one that costs about $6,000 more. The China-built Buick absorbed a $5,000 increase and then watched its own sales fall 60% in a quarter. And the answer was not to cut the price, it was to announce a factory move for 2028. That is what makes 2027 worse, and it has almost nothing to do with the metal. Prices are going up on cars nobody is buying. The connected vehicle rule takes a brand off the board entirely. Replacements are landing that make the current stock instantly, visibly obsolete. And the average new vehicle listing price crossed $49,300 in June, up again year on year, while a car loan still costs the better part of 7%. The lot being full was never going to save you. It was never that kind of number. I want to step back from the accusation for a second because I think there is something underneath all of this that is worth more than the anger. Every number in this video is a measure of price. None of them is a measure of worth. Those are different things, and the entire industry depends on you for getting it. Worth is what a machine does for you over the 10 or 15 years you keep it. It is whether the parts are there in year 8. It is whether the thing that fails first is a $40 sensor or a sealed module. It is whether on a cold morning in year 6 it starts. Price is a number somebody typed into a system in a building you will never visit, and it can move $12,500 in an afternoon for reasons the company itself cannot articulate. You cannot control price. You can absolutely learn worth, and the good news is that worth is knowable. It is in the service manuals, in the forums where people post their mileage, in what the trade-in figures do at year 3, in whether an independent shop will take the job. That knowledge is slow to acquire, and nobody is going to hand it to you because nobody makes money teaching it. But it is the only part of this transaction that is genuinely yours. And once you have it, the number on the windscreen stops being an instruction and starts being an opinion. Right? The list in order, so you have it clean. Charger, $385. ID 4, $349. Polestar 4, $318. Julia, $270. SQ7, $255. EQS, $243. Gricale, $233. Wrangler 2-door, $230. Stelvio, $229. Envision, $227. Gladiator, $222. Grand Wagoneer, $215. Against an industry average of $80 and against Toyota's $37. What to actually do with it? 3 things. First, the national figure is not your figure. Supply is enormously regional. That ID4 at 349 days nationally has been reported at over 900 in California, and it will be very different again in a state where nobody wants an electric crossover at all. Find the number for where you live, not the headline. Second, and this is the one nobody tells you, forget the model and look up the individual car. Every vehicle on that lot has a stock number and a date it arrived. Ask how long that specific one has been there. A unit past 60 days has already cost the store real money and eaten most of the front-end profit it was ever going to make, and past 90, it is a problem on somebody's report. That is a far sharper instrument than any national statistic, and it takes one question. Third, and I say this as somebody who likes several of the cars on this list, cheap because nobody wants it, and cheap because it is undervalued are two completely different conditions with the same price tag. The Gladiator is undervalued. The Envision is an orphan. Same shape discount. Opposite outcome in 5 years. So here is what you can do tonight before you go anywhere near a showroom. Pull up the listing for whatever you have been circling, find the stock number, then find the same model listed at 3 or 4 other dealers within a couple of hours of you, and count how many there are. 10 minutes. On your phone, on the sofa. By the end of it, you will know more about that dealer's position than the person who is going to sell it to you assumes you could possibly know. And you will not have to bluff about a single thing because it will all be true. Something I would honestly like to read in the comments, and I mean this as a question and not as filler. Tell me where you are watching from and what is sitting on the lots near you, because this list is a national average, and national averages lie about geography more than anything else. Rust Country and Sun Country tell completely different stories about the same car. A two-door Wrangler that will not move in Florida is gone in a weekend in Colorado. If you have driven past the same row of unsold something for 6 months, name the town and name the car. And if you want a second opinion on a specific one, put the model, the year, and how long it has been sitting, and I will tell you honestly whether I would sign for it. If this was useful, subscribing costs you nothing, and it means the next one turns up. And there will be a next one because I went into this expecting the story to be about which cars are bad, and it turned out to be about who decides what a discount is. That thread runs a long way further than one list of slow sellers into places I have not properly looked at yet, and I am going to keep pulling on it. Until then, go and check the stock number.